Now, when the Conservative government came to power last year, it had a manifesto pledge to halve the disability employment gap. While 80% of the general population is in work, that figure is just 48% for disabled people. But if you have a disability and are looking for work, finding an employer willing to give you a chance is easier said than done. Here is Richard Shakespeare, who's a disability consultant, and joining us from Westminster is Heidi Allen, who's chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Young Disabled People. Heidi Allen first, why do you think it is that so many disabled people appear to be trying so hard to get a job but struggling to land it?
Well, they're no different to any group of people who really want to work. The difficulty is it's so much harder for them to achieve that, and that's where the government has to step in and help. We have made progress, but, there's a lot of employers out there who are nervous, who don't want to do the wrong thing or be in breach of kind of disability legislation, so it makes them a little bit frightened and reticent of taking disabled people on. So government has a role to break down those barriers. But we also need the job scene.
Okay, a lot of employers also potentially discriminating, right?
I think certainly the employers I talk to, it's not knowingly so. The employers that I spoke to, I had a disability employment fair in my constituency a couple of months ago, actually, where I had dozens and dozens of employers really driven and excited by this opportunity of unleashing this talent, particularly in areas like mine where we've got very high employment, you can't get the skills, but they're just frightened of doing things wrong. So certainly the work we've done on the Select Committee for Work and Pensions, I'm also a member of, we've not seen issues with the employers, it's more around connecting those people looking for work with the right employer. That's where we need to do more work.
There were issues, though, with some of the people looking for work in our film that we just saw. Employers, for example, Darryl removed disability from his CV and he then got interviews. Mary saw an email she shouldn't have seen that said that her employer said she wouldn't be suitable because of her hearing dog. I mean, you do accept that discrimination is a problem.
It is, but there's discrimination and poor employer practice in every walk of life, not just with disabled people. We've seen some real problems with big employers recently taking advantage of really desperate workers on poor, weak contracts. So it's not just the area of disability where this is a problem, but where employers are breaking the law, we absolutely have to find them and shut them down and stop them doing it.
OK, I'll come back to that. But Richard Shakespeare, discrimination is no more of a problem for disabled people than it is for many other people.
I think the problem is that we're all too often keen to blame the employers. And it isn't all down to the employers. There are some fantastic employers out there that have very good programs to try and create an inclusive environment. And we have some employers that obviously aren't perhaps going as far as they could. They're not perhaps as engaged, or they're not perhaps as willing to look at the pool of talent that is there. But by and large, I think most businesses are. I think we're too keen quite often to blame the employers. They're the easy get out of jail free card. I think the government does have to take some responsibility. There's been an awful lot of nonsensical approaches that they've taken in terms of how they drive employment for people with disabilities and what they're going to do as a strategy. I think really their strategy is quite disjointed and they haven't really thought through what they're going to do. They've published their sort of headline grabbing, we're going to put so many people into work, we're going to increase it. And over the last 4 years, the percentage of people in employment with a disability has gone up by around 1% because they're just not logical in their approach.
OK, let me put that to Heidi Allen. The government's just not logical in its approach, so it's not making enough difference to disabled people.
Well, I think they're starting to, and you will know that we've had a recently published green paper from the DWP that outlines, some really transformative changes that the department wants to make. I want to make sure that the detail's right. It has been difficult. Government, as you will know, is a typical big oil tanker, and getting different government departments to work together is hard, but that's not an excuse. We need to do better at that. And I think we have a new ministerial team in Penny Mordaunt who is absolutely committed to this agenda. Okay. Let's see what the green paper comes up. Every disabled charity in the country is being invited to participate in this. Right. So this is the biggest conversation I think we've ever had between government and the disabled community, and we need to grab it with both hands, and we could make a really transformative success of it.
Richard Shakespeare, grab it with both hands now. What would you say that the government needs to do?
I think what they need to do is almost go back to basics and actually look at the approach that they're taking, who's going to take control of it and who they listen to in terms of where they get their advice and their resources. Because the Green Paper, fantastic, but the challenge now is to actually turn what's in the Green Paper and in the manifestos and what the government says into a reality. And my concern is that if we continue along the same vein that the government and then the current sort of process seems to be, is that we'll be sitting here in 20 years' time and we won't have made any progress.
I mean, Heidi Allen, you talked about the government intervening to stop employers discriminating. But I mean, would you like to see, for example, quotas or firms being named and shamed? What action would you like?
It's funny because it's a question, that we talk about a lot as we're trying to find our way through this. Should we have quotas? Employers have to employ so many disabled people, or tax breaks, and that just morally doesn't feel right to me. Employers need to employ disabled people because they have great skills and, show incredible levels of loyalty and determination and resilience. So that's what I want employers to focus on. I'm not really comfortable with the idea of quotas, but I think government's role has to be about identifying those who are breaking the law from a discrimination point of view, but also helping employers not be scared of taking disabled people on. Access to work, is a great programme that the government runs, but so few people know about it.
Okay.
So they're the kind of things where the government needs to take more action.
Okay, Heidi Allen, Richard Shakespeare, I'm sorry we've run out of time, but thank you both very much for joining us.